Hello, Cooper Glover, 1972 here. Of course, by now you probably know my name is Brian, of course. Um, so, um, I guess before I get into this video, let me say I've been seeing, I haven't been watching the videos, but I've been seeing the titles of them, seeing the notices of them, or like going on people's channels, like Gray 1951, Mike's channel. I see on my subscriptions, I see All Things Film, DVD Collector 1974. I see Blu-ray Collector 1971, I think, and then Maca Photos and maybe somebody else. And they're all saying, like, what's your best cinematic experience? I haven't watched those videos. I'd like to do a video on that. I know you guys did Criterions, like your obsession with Criterions, and I have a huge obsession with Criterions. I've got like a few hundred Criterions. I got a lot of Criterions, um, and I gotta do a video on that. And I'm just over. I'm kind of well. There's films I want to watch. A few of them are leaving streaming services at the end of this month. One's leaving at the end of tonight. I don't know. It's just crazy. I've got all these films I own that I want to watch. Uh, okay, so anyways, let's get to this topic right here. So I guess the topic is, if I was a film director, what kind of film would I make? Well, this is kind of a long story. See, when I was a kid, well, a teenager, I wanted to make movies. And I don't know if I kind of abandoned it. I'm not sure. Maybe I haven't totally abandoned the idea of making movies. Um, when I was a kid, like I had this magazine called Cinemagic, which was a sister publication to Starlog, who also made Fangoria, and it's basically like special effects, like horror movies, fantasy movies, science fiction movies, like how to create special effects, how to shoot with your camera, how to design sets, things like that. And when I was a teenager, I read all these books on all these great directors like Bergman, Antonioni, Kurosawa, um, Jean-Luc Godard. Who else did I read about? Um, who else was Fritz Lang? All these great directors, and so I was aware of this kind of like foreign cinema before I actually saw it, because I was reading all these books, but I didn't have access to all these films. Well, my 20s came, and Blockbuster Video showed up in my area, and at that time period, they had foreign movies, and I saw La Dolce Vita, and I was just, well, you see, what happened was, Um, I wanted to go to film school. I looked at a few places, School of Visual Arts in New York City, SUNY at Purchase in New York, up above New York City. And I didn't do that. I went to night classes at a university for a few semesters and basically hung it up from there. I took a cinema class there, like a cinema criticism class, but I think the teacher made it more difficult than it had to be. He didn't make the class easy. Hold on a minute, I'll be right back. Back. Um, so I just had to wipe my nose. Anyways, so I took that cinema class, and um, my engine sort of got revved up again for maybe making movies again. Because like at the end of my senior year, I said maybe I should be a writer instead of a filmmaker. But that was then I saw La Dolce Vita, and it changed my mind back to making movies. La Dolce, there's some like maybe there's some pivotal films that have influenced me, like Citizen Kane, for example. I saw that when I was, I'd like to say 15 or 16. No, I was 15. I think it was 15. I think I was 15. Um, I think I had read about it in books, and I was just fascinated about how it was made. I still love how reading books about how movies are made, and then of course carried into the DVD age and the Blu-ray age, where you have the special features showing you how they make the films. I'm crazy about all that kind of stuff. The commentaries, and anyways, so I saw La Dolce Vita, and it sort of brought me back. And I started watching all these other foreign films, Knife in the Water, La Ventura. Um, I saw, a film I saw even earlier. I think it was eighth grade. I was maybe 14. Was Yojimbo. I think it was the first Kurosawa film I saw, and that really impacted me. I saw Seventh Seal when I was 15, maybe. Um, my we were going to this. Where was it? I think we were going to this. Oh, we were in was it Long Island or was it Massachusetts? I can't remember. But we stopped at this video store, and my father saw the Fellini film and The Ship Sails On, which he heard a lot of great stuff about. So he said, and the place only rented the videos out. And I also saw The Seventh Seal there, so I wanted to see that because I've been seeing pictures of it in books, and I really wanted to see what it was like. I believe it was my first Bergman film. And so I was, so we took those videos, and my father basically just paid. He sent them some money in the mail, which I guess they probably weren't happy about. They wanted the videos back. Anyways, so then like I started collecting videos in the 90s. Maybe one of like the first videos I started buying was North by Northwest. I watched that a number of times. I don't know if it's Hitchcock's, if it's as great as Vertigo, Psycho, The Birds, Rear Window. I don't know if it matches up to those. It is a good movie. There's some great scenes in it. Mount Rushmore, the crop duster scene. Those scenes are fantastic. I guess it's good. I guess it set the template for James Bond movies. But anyways, I was watching that film over again, and then I would own other movies that I'd watch over again. Citizen Kane, for example. Some James Bond movies like The Spy Who Loved Me. And I collected a lot of books on how to make movies, and I wrote some scripts. I wrote 2 feature-length scripts, and I took some classes in screenwriting. The first feature-length script I wrote was about a missionary priest from Spain who comes over to the New World, being America, and he tries to convert the Apache Indians to Christianity, and instead he becomes Apache. So I wrote. Oh, that was my second one. I'm sorry. My first one was about this serial killer who kills fashion models. And the protagonist of the film was this undercover cop, and she was going undercover as either she was a cop, but she was going undercover as a model, and she was dating either the villain who would be the artist or photographer that was interested in these models, maybe, or it could be his ex-girlfriend who's a model. And that's kind of a mess. And I don't know where all the pages for that script went. I think I don't have them all. The same goes for the second one. I thought of an early title for the Apache one. I thought, Red Dawn, but of course there's a movie called Red Dawn, so I thought Apache Dawn. But, I guess because, the wheel's been invented so many times before, you have a man called Horse already, and maybe Black Robe is sort of the same kind of territory you're treading on, but you try to give it a new spin, and that's how you differentiate yourself from what came before. So I wrote those scripts, and I took a class in screenwriting at the New School in New York City in 2001. In fact, it was just a few weeks after September 11th, 2001. Just to go on a sideline for a second here, when I was in Grand Central, there was all these like cardboard walls with photos attached to them saying, "Have you seen this person?" or whatever. And like one of my fellow students was saying that like you could smell the toxins or whatever from the site, even though it had been you know it had happened just a few weeks ago. So, but anyways, let me go back to so at the New School. She wanted us to my teacher. She wanted us to adapt a short story that she one of three short stories. So I did one about a supermarket. I wasn't really passionate about it. And she also said we could submit feature-length scripts, that she could do on the side. And I don't know, maybe I didn't apply myself in that class, and I don't know. So from there on, I've I've been involved in the Connecticut Film Fest since its inception, which was the Bethel Film Fest in 2005. Then it became the Connecticut Film Fest in 2006. And it's gone through some transformations. It started off like in various cities. Then it was in Danbury for a while. And then it was now it's like a weekly festival at Bethel Cinema. I haven't gone in many months now, but and I've hung up posters for the Connecticut Film Festival. I've got to know the director of the festival very well, and he has me and a friend of mine and some other people screen films for him. So being on Facebook, I think it was through Facebook. My friend and I met another person, a person who acted in films in New London, Connecticut, at a lighting workshop, and he referred us to a filmmaker whose day job is the World Wrestling, and that's how I got involved with ScaredStiffTV.com, which has a YouTube channel that you can watch. And I was on the crew for those films for about like 10 or 12 films, and he makes horror movies. That's what his niches. So I did those. I was recently an extra in his latest movie called Tiny's October 31st. I'm one of the people in the crowd that yells, "No more Halloween" or whatever. You'll see me in the background. And am I covering all my bases? Okay. And then I worked on a New York University film shoot, which when I saw the finished product, I thought was awful. And I was an extra in that too, but I helped like put gels and lights, and it was a bit. It didn't turn out right. I also helped out in another film. I think he put it on YouTube. And I don't want to get in the details of that too much, but so that's basically where I stand. And then I wrote. I've written a short movie that has a car chase and a foot chase in it, with cops and an escaped robber who's murdered a lot of people. I sort of would like to make it as my intro film, and I've emailed it to several filmmakers I've met at the Connecticut Film Festival, and I've gone to a few other film festivals. Gone to Tribeca like 10 or 11 times. Have I covered everything? So I don't know. I feel kind of discouraged about making movies now. I'd like to have a glimmer of hope that I could make them. I don't know. Um, so that's why I've resorted to, I mean, like, well, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but when I was in 10th grade, I was I was really wanting to make a movie. In those days, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have digital equipment, you didn't have laptop computers and iPhones that could make these things cheap and easy to do. And um, um, what was I going to say? Oh, so I competed in a student playwrights competition all over the state of Connecticut for high school students, and did I wrote a play for my sophomore, my junior, and my senior year, and I was one of 6 winners in my junior year about a homeless man, how he became homeless. So I think maybe people thought I promised or whatever. I don't know. And let me see. And I've helped out on public access shows. I used to do that. Used to like cover. I used to be a host camera. Like counting down people or wrap it up. Kind of thing. Interview show. Um, so have I covered everything? So I know this question was, if I was a film director, what kind of film would I make? Well, the answer is features, because that's what I've wanted to make. I guess like a lot of my ideas are like historical figures or famous people that I like to make movies about. But I think I could come up with any idea. Basically, I just have to brainstorm. Um, I don't know. I mean, the idea that I have with the car chase and the foot chase, um, I think I could accomplish perhaps. I know it's ambitious, and maybe it's too much for a first time film. I don't know. I have no idea. I did do a short film on my YouTube channel about dogs, where I used ZZ Top's "Dirty Dog" song from what's that album called? Well, whatever it's called, Afterburner maybe. I don't know. So I wrote that play because I couldn't make a movie. And then starting in senior in high school, I started writing poetry. I started getting interested in classic literature. And when I got out of high school, I started writing lots and lots of poetry. And I have written lots of poetry over many years. I will write for a few years, I'll write for a few months, and then I'll stop and I won't write for a few months or maybe a year or maybe a few years, sort of back and forth. And so maybe I do something artistic in order, even if I can't do what I want, which really is making like films. I am interested in music. I was interested in music when I was a kid, like when I was maybe 9, 10 years old. I, I thought I'd like to play the electric guitar, and I took drum lessons, but I really didn't apply myself. I mean, I just had this drum pad, and I never got a drum set, and I don't think that was the kind of instrument I would want to play. I think electric guitar is the one. Um, and anyways, um, um, what was I going to say? Oh, so I previous to making movies, I thought maybe I should make music, and I sort of abandoned that idea. And when I got to my 20s, I was writing poetry. In my 30s, same thing. I was being involved in a film festival. So I reached my 40s, and I basically thought to myself, "You're not getting any younger, and if you want to play the electric guitar, you might as well buy one." That's the thing with the trip to Japan. I've wanted to go there since I was a kid. So I've been trying to save up money for that. It's been a little delayed. I don't want to get into the details about that, but um, so I bought electric guitars, and I bought two, and I bought an amp, and I bought a MIDI keyboard, and I'm having fun, doing these garage band songs that you see on my channel. I think some of the songs are not great. I think some of the songs are, I would hope, I would think in my mind, are pretty good. I haven't really learned how to play guitar. I experiment and then I find something and then I record it, um, with either my keyboard or my guitar. I just find something and then put it together and then throw it up on YouTube. Sometimes I put a lot of work into it. Sometimes I copy and paste or I add some loops in. So the computer does some of the work, like the drumming that you hear in my songs. That's not me drumming. That's a computer. So some of this heavy lifting is being done by the computer, but not everything. Playing the guitar is me. Um, the keyboard is me. I know I'm digressing from the topic, but let me just get through this. So like if I have it on synthesizer or arpeggiator, if I press the piano key down and I have a small keyboard, I can just change the octave, so I can go higher up and down like on a regular piano or keyboard. If I go on synthesizer or arpeggiator, if I put my finger down on one key, it will just keep on going and going and going. Whereas if you hit a piano key, it just makes one noise and then you have to hit it again. So like my song, let's "Time to Go to the Club," which have one of my most watched GarageBand YouTube videos. That's how I did the arpeggiator synthesizer with the MIDI keyboard. And then the guitar, I was just, I don't know if I was really playing it that much. I was like sliding the pick against the string and just playing a lot around and just trying to find something. And that's basically how that song came to be. And like some of them, like Ghosts of Future Past, that one, I think basically that all came into being through how I put the settings on my analog amp, my Fender Mustang amp, and the settings I put on the computer. And I did, hit some strings and all that kind of stuff. But basically, the things I did, I didn't have to do too much in order to make it sound the way it did. If you follow what I'm saying. So I don't know. Maybe I hope one day maybe I'll make movies. I don't know. I like the fact with GarageBand, I'm not having to rely on people. I know that sounds terrible, but if I had to have a drummer or a bass player or a singer, and they couldn't commit, or something, or they were late to a gig. Not that it would be at a gig. I don't know, but just I have more control. With making movies, you rely a lot on people. You rely a lot on schedules. You have to get things shot before the light goes. Something can break down. Because I've experienced this. Like we were doing something once, and it was cold outside. It was the end of October, and we were shooting, and the microphone wouldn't pick up the sound, so we had to like bring the sound equipment into the house and like warm it up. And I had to one time I had to hit the walk sign near this house, so we could get good sound for the mic, so the cars passing by wouldn't muffle the sound. So filmmaking is very, very tough. It's long hours. You should bring food to a film set, because you don't want your crew and cast to mutiny on you. You have to be very organized. It's like climbing Mount Everest every single day, and it's a very, very big process. You have to, first off, you have to write the script. That's the first thing, and that's a major miracle if you can write a script. If somebody says to you, I wrote a movie script or I wrote a novel, you shouldn't take it lightly, because even if it's a piece of crap, for example, how many people have written a novel? How many people have written a script? I don't know. Maybe some people have written music. I'm not sure, but like that's something. You know what I mean? If you can do something like that, But if you write the script, then you take it to the shooting stage of the process. and you might change the lines of the dialogue because it doesn't work on the set compared to when it worked on the page. There are some directors that you think are improvising, but are actually being very faithful to the script. Like Ingmar Bergman, I think, is one of them. I can't think of some other directors, but there are other directors like this. But there are other directors, and some directors are absolutely, you might go crazy on their sets. Like Stanley Kubrick, he could shoot 100 takes of one shot. If you watch the special features of The Shining, he's like beating down Shelley Duvall. He's telling her, you open the door quicker, Shelley. We're all waiting here outside. Get moving. And she's saying, I can't. The door's too heavy to move. So, it's that kind of a thing. It's like Ozu. One of his main actors was this guy named Chishu Ryu. This guy was not really a good actor. So he would have to get 100 takes of one shot just to get the best performance out of him. So this is what you're dealing with. You might have an actor that's great. You might have an actor that sucks. Your equipment might go bad on you. That's why you have to have extra batteries. It's a very involved process. You have to know things about lenses. You have to know your budget and how much you can afford to work with things. In fact, and I've said this in a previous video, I believe, shooting on a lower budget makes you more creative and makes you think more about how to shoot things and be more creative. Because if you shoot on a bigger budget and you throw money and you throw more money and you throw more money, you're not really solving problems. You're just, you're not being creative. Working on a lower budget makes you think more about how to get around problems, if that makes any sense. And I'd rather work on independent films than I would on Hollywood films, because there's always bean counters coming up to the director and saying, you're a day behind schedule. That's another thing. If you're a day behind schedule, if the film takes, if let's say the shooting schedule is 30 days, four days take place in a house. The rest, 26 days of the shoot, take place outdoors in the summer, and it's sunny. It has to be sunny. Well, guess what? It's going to rain 10 of those days. You're going to have to put in artificial light. Hang on a sec. You're going to have to put in artificial light. You're going to have to maybe put an umbrella up to block the rain. It might be winter that you have to film scenes in and make it look like summer. Like the film I was in, Tiny's October 31st. We were there, I think it was August. And the film takes place in fall. So you had to put long sleeve shirts on, jackets. And, this is summer we're talking about. We have to look like we're cold, So there's those things. So you have all that stuff to deal with. Then you have to get to the editing stage. And things are a little bit better now, with cameras, because you can use iPhones, you can use DSLRs, digital single lens reflex cameras. If I had to buy cameras, I'd buy like $100, $300 camera. So I'd probably buy it off of eBay with detachable lenses, prime lenses. Their disadvantages, you can't move the millimeter of the lens. The lens is fixed at a certain focal point, depth of field, certain things. You can do certain things to cheat. If the audience doesn't know, well, I know I'm going on, but let me just get into this. If the audience, I think it was James Cameron who said this, the special effect is expensive or cheap. If the audience is convinced, you know, that it's real. Doesn't matter how cheap or expensive it is. That's how it works, you know. But you can do things like with lenses, for example, in The Graduate. At the end of the film, Dustin Hoffman is running to the church, and he's running down the street. And what kind of lens did they use? Was it? Let me see. I think it's a wide angle, which is like, wasn't a 5 millimeter because it'd be like a fisheye lens, like very spherical looking on the frame. Probably it was like, I'm guessing like a 10 millimeter lens, maybe 11, 12. So it looks like it takes him slower amount of time to run from one side of the street to the other. But it's the same amount of time if it was a regular millimeter lens, you know, like our IC, which is about a 50 millimeter lens, according to a 35 millimeter camera. With a zoom lens, you've got 100 millimeters or so, or more, 200 millimeters. But it compresses space together. Wide angle brings space out. So you can fool people. And that's why lenses are so important, I think, and can really help a film. So, but okay, so you've got the film in the bag, you've shot it. Now you got to edit the film. So, hopefully you've done something like you use director slates, you know, those things where they go take one, shot 4, Titanic, director James Cameron, roll sound, rolling sound. How does it go? Sound rolling, camera rolling, action, and then they do the thing, and the cut, and then the cut ends, and the director says cut. Or sometimes they do this. They say maybe they haven't got it done right, or maybe they got part of the shot right. They'll say keep going, keep going. They don't. They'll re-edit it later on in the editing stage. So that's like a trick, you know. So, but some directors only do a few takes, like Clint Eastwood. He'll do like 3, but he's dealing with like professional actors. Fassbinder sometimes only did 1 take, but you know he was very good. And the trick to his films was he shot his films in like one location, like Bitter Tears of Betje van Kant, one of my favorite movies of all time. That's just a bedroom and some stairs, and just 6 actresses. And he shot like 3 films a year, so he shot like 40, 50 films in his lifetime. And I think he died in about his early 30s from a barbiturate overdose or cocaine overdose. He also did stage plays, so he's very productive. Then there's some directors that take forever to make a movie, like Stanley Kubrick, you know, like 5 years or 4 years, you know. According to Tom Cruise, I think he got an ulcer from making Eyes Wide Shut because he tries every single kind of shot that he can think of. You know, he's very patient. The scene in Clockwork Orange where they're raping the writer and his wife, that took 4 days to shoot, you know. So, I mean, this is what you're dealing with when you're making a movie. You know, this is not easy stuff. You can sort of make it easier. Some directors are different, you know, every director is different, you know. Some directors, you know, will improvise, they'll have fun. Sometimes a really bad movie that you see, when you watch the movie, I mean, if you were on the set of the film at the time that was made, people are having a great time, you know what I mean? But the film is terrible, you know, that happens. And the reverse happens too. People are having a terrible time with each other, they hate each other's guts, and this great film comes out, you know. Examples of that would be Anita Ekberg and Marcello Mastroianni in La Dolce Vita. I don't think they were really warm to one another, and, you know, you'd never know it in the movie. Blade Runner, you know, like Harrison Ford wasn't getting along with Ridley Scott, you know. So these are the kinds of things you're dealing with, you know. And then after you've edited the film, which can take a while, you know, maybe a month, you know, and if you shoot lots of footage, you have to think. I know I'm going on, but I'm just trying to explain this process to you. You can storyboard, which helps, especially with special effects or action sequences. You draw the shots out before you make the movie, so you save time and money. So you know, you have to think of those things. So I covered editing. Then you got to get it out to the theaters, which is another big drag. You know, you got to make posters, you got to make postcards, you got to make an electronic press kit. You know, I've read books about this. I've met filmmakers. I know about this process. You know, so you submit your film to festivals. Some of them don't really do much impact. Some of them do, of course. You know, Tribeca, Sundance, you know, Cannes, you know, and you submit, and you have to pay fees for not all these, a fair amount of these film festivals. You're going to have to pay a fee. But you know, like some of the things about movie making for me that sort of make me discouraged is these contrary opinions that I get, and I see it with music too. Like if you want to write a script, you have to do this, and then somebody else will say, "Oh no, you don't have to do that. You have to do this." You know, so I'm confused. You know, so that's basically where I've reached my plateau at this point. So. This is the end of the video. I'm going to give you a link to the treatment I wrote with the car chase and the foot chase that I mentioned. This short film I want to make, and it will also include in that link a link to the YouTube video and what it is of the film I want to make, which basically is. I took Google Images and I got shots that corresponded to the treatment, which is just a shorter form of the script. It's like a summary of the script, and I took the shots and I did dialogue and I put in voiceover narration to talk about what's happening in the film, put in sound effects, put in music, and you'll see. Maybe you'll get an idea of what the film would look like if it was made. So that's enough. I'll try and put in some more. I'll try and do some more videos on all these things you guys have been doing. You know, a great cinematic viewing experience, the Criterion thing, you know, why you collect Criterions, what's so great about them, and all that stuff, and maybe some other topics that you were discussing. And also my GarageBand songs, you know, which I really like doing these days. So, all right, enough chatter. I hope you enjoy this. I know I went on a long time. Maybe you found this content of interest. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the near future. Bye for now.